This module's exercises require quotations, and I want you to do them in a certain way. And it's true not just for the exercises where you'll get a chance to practice the quotations, but also in the final essay, the project that requires quotations as well. So I'm going to share my screen with you and give you an example of how I want you to use quotations for these projects. Quotations are the use of exact words from other sources. Don't be confused. In certain formats of non-academic writing, we use quotation marks, those look like this, around dialogue, such as in fiction, where we have characters talking to each other, and those quotation marks represent the exact talking that they do. Or we use quotation marks also in Associated Press format for journalistic purposes, where we quote the exact words that a person actually says in an interview. In academic writing, however, such as you're focused on in this class and will continue to focus on as you proceed through college, you'll be using quotations from textual sources largely and for different purposes than either dialogue or journalistic quotation. Instead, you use quotations in academic writing to point out specific words or phrases used by another author that tell us something interesting about that author's approach or ideas. So, toward that end, the quotations won't look like what you're used to seeing in dialogue or in the newspaper. Instead, you should follow these rules. First, your quote should be short, and I mean like one word or one phrase. There are reasons to quote lengthier phrases, sometimes whole sentences or whole paragraphs or whole sections of a work. But for our purposes, those things are not necessary here. Instead, I want you to quote only a word at a time or a phrase at a time. Secondly, then, those quotations have to be integrated into a sentence of your own, probably containing paraphrase. In other words, you'll choose words that you're going to quote, and you'll write your own sentence that include those words with quotation marks around the words that you're quoting. Next, they have to be cited. And in MLA format, the in-text citations always have a word, space, a page number. And the word that goes there is the first word in the works cited entry, the works cited page entry for that text. In this case, it's almost always going to be the author's last name. So it'd be something like this: Tubner, space, and the page number. That citation, the parenthetical citation with the parentheses around it, goes at the end of the sentence in which you use a quotation, not necessarily right after the quotation itself, because there may be other words in the sentence after that quotation. So instead, and in every case, you put that citation at the very end of the sentence. Toward that end, a period goes after it and not before. The next thing is the words need to be choice words that you quote. In other words, you need to be quoting them for a specific reason. The primary reason why you might quote another author's words is to demonstrate to your audience the way that author said something. And that means that the author needs to be saying it in a significant way, or a telling way, or a particularly apt or appropriate way. Otherwise, there's no point in using the quotation at all. As a general rule, you should always use your own voice instead of the words of another author throughout, right? You should always paraphrase when you can paraphrase by saying the words again saying the same thing again in your own words. Okay, now I'm going to show you what this looks like. Let's say that I am reading along in a book and I find that the author uses the phrase a jolly holiday in reference to, let's say a vicious, violent attack, right? I'm choosing those words. They're very significant, and telling, because any other way that I express that author's opinion probably won't do justice to calling a violent attack a jolly holiday. In that case, I need to write my own sentence that then includes those words and then has a citation at the end. It might be like this. Hübner is ironic when he claims that such violent attacks seemed to be executed as though the robber was on a jolly holiday. I've ended the sentence here, but it's not correct yet because I still need to cite that source, right? Let's pretend that it's on page 38 in a book by Hübner. In that case, I put Hübner space, the page 38, and then a period at the end. Notice there's one period here at the very end, but there's not one before. All of the quotations that you use in your weekly summary should look like this. They should never be a hanging quotation. In other words, a sentence that is entirely quoted material. If you follow these rules, they won't be. Hey, that's funny. Okay. As usual, I'm available for questions anytime you got them. So my recommendation is that you make an effort at writing a sentence that includes quoted material from one of this project sources, and then hit me up either through email or during my drop-in office hours so I can take a look at how you've done it. All right, everybody have a great day.